Good morning and thanks for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Neeraj Shah, and again a promising day of trade. World markets are benign. US markets heading into the inflation day ended up for the fourth straight day, which is actually a great sign from a markets risk on perspective. And the US futures as we speak are actually positive. So that's the starting point of our global roundup today, that the US markets have done really well and for the fourth straight day. Uh, the other interesting piece is that until the Chinese elections are over, um, China's handle on COVID continues to be very, very strict. So cities around Beijing have announced lockdowns due to COVID risks. I think 16 cases, 1-6 by the way, 16 cases found in Beijing in quarantine, and a lot of things have happened. So, very difficult to figure out what the what the next moves of this nation would be. Be that as it may, from an Indian perspective, a lot of people say that, hey, it might actually help supply chains, because people will eventually realize that there is an issue with having all of supply chains out of China, as I think companies already the world over are doing. Credit Suisse has predicted the US inflation collapse, if when it comes, will lead to a powerful market rally for the US markets. So that's that one positive view that comes in talking about. And by the way, talking about inflation and the conversation around the next 24 hours will be firmly around US inflation. Talking of inflation, by the way, the Indian CPI inflation met expectations at about 7%. The food inflation spiked on expected lines. If Nimbu is available at 6 rupees for a consistent period of time, you know that food inflation is high. India IIP growth slowed to about 2.4% with sequential declines across the board, and that's not great news either. But currently, the markets are shrugging off temporary pieces of bad news with an expectation that the outlook ahead is more promising. Google mulls 10 to 20% of annual pixel production in India. Talking about supply chain shifts, viewers, large companies are making their presence felt. We know now. Remember last month, not just we. I mean, on this show, on this segment, and otherwise, you heard about Apple wanting to do the same. Google is trying to do the same. So there's lots happening out there on supply chains and India shifts. And the other big news, I may not talk about it eventually in the stocks to watch, Rame, but the last line here on this India news piece, that India may offer $2.5 billion lifeline to cost hit oil firms. This is, I think, on account of higher price LNG losses, right, that these firms have encountered. And as a result of which, watch out, viewers, today, BPHP IOC could well be stocks that would be in focus today. So this is the set of news that I thought were the most important ones. I'm sure there are others. I'll not be able to bring everything, but yeah, this is what I thought was important. So getting to US markets, they did well, and getting to markets per se. So they did well, about 1.27% for the NASDAQ yet again. Dollar index, Bitcoin, volatility will come up on your screen next. And let's also figure out what those cues are looking like. So the dollar index continues to stay lower at this about 1.7.94 mark. The 10-year yield at about 3.34%. Bitcoin at 22,000. So status quo, if you will. SGX Nifty indicates a start which is about 100 odd points, 18,048. Now, this is important simply because a bunch of technical experts suggest that if the index were to cross 18,150, 18,148, whatever those technical numbers are, I mean, they come to that number to the last decimal, but rounding it out about 18,150, then there could be aggressive buying. Let's wait and watch if that happens. But the trade setup for the day, I think the undertone is bullish. The index is very strongly bullish despite a very quiet second half in trade yesterday. VIX below 18 actually aids that positive undertone. So don't be bearish for the time being. Quant indicators are in greed sphere, but not quite uh, egregious greed, if you will. So that is okay. Tech is showing the willingness to participate for 2 straight sessions is an encouraging sign to my mind. We needed something other than banks to start participating. Tech is a heavyweight, and which is why tech is important. You can argue that, oh, FMCG participating is a good sign. FMCG didn't, but I'm just making a point that if FMCG participates, it doesn't really make a big bearing on the index as tech or banks do. Now, banks have been a bit quiet. It did okay yesterday, but quiet compared to the last 1 month. So tech is participating, and that's actually a good sign. So I think for my mind, OMCs, because of the news that I said, IT, because of the continued move, and defense, likely because of all that's happening around, are likely to remain the key sectors today. And I just found out that various messages floating around, which come as forwards to me from various groups, I presume, talking about so many cement companies on the block. I mean, there was chatter about India Cements, Nuoco Vistas, a bunch of other firms out there uh, on the block. The buyers are the top two cement players in the country currently, seemingly. So they'll buy out everything seemingly. So there's a lot of chatter out there. Some of that might be true as well. I'm not necessarily clued in on everything. I'm not clued in on most things, actually, let me tell you. But be that as it may, the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of chatter around cement M&A, and that might just keep this space a buzz. Whether or not it leads to price moves, positive, sustained or no, I don't know. But clearly expect buzz to be remaining in the cement space. FIs continue to buy, 2,000 odd crores bought yesterday. DI sold about 890 crores. But it's the stocks to watch, which is a long, long list today. I'll start off with HDFC Life. Aberdeen seeks to sell about $313 million worth of HDFC Life shares, 4.3 crore shares at 564 to 578 per share. And It'll be interesting to see what the stock does. Does it start off in or around those levels, and does it recover from there? Simply because this must be the last of the large blocks on offer, I presume. JP Morgan, incidentally, just a day ahead of this deal, has raised the stock to an overweight rating with a price target of 680 rupees per share. Well, interesting timing there. ICICI Prudential cut to neutral at JP Morgan. The price target is 650 rupees per share. But it is this thing. I mean, maybe JP Morgan also believes that if this is the last of the lots and therefore the supply overhang is gone, would HDFC Life actually be a stock that could give good returns? Hitherto, insurance firms have failed to do so. Maybe this time around is different. Watch out for HDFC Life. My limited point is, don't look at the tape price that they've set out and think of there being a shorting opportunity. If the appetite is strong, then that might not remain. So just keep that at the back of your mind. NDTV, IT department has clarified there's no restriction on conversion of warrants into shares by RRPR Holdings in favor of Vishwa Pradhan Commercial. The clarification clears the way for acquisition of the company by Adani Group. So watch out for this one. It's had 4 or 5 lower circuits of late. Maybe that continues. I don't know. But just laying out the news for you. Standard disclaimer, of course. The Adani Group owns 49% in BQ Prime, the platform that you're watching. Concor, the government will probably announce an EOI for Concor by Q3 for giving controlling stake by a strategic divestment. This is as per media reports, but watch out. Concor could be active. It has been active the last few days. Maybe there could be more activity. Some other stocks in news include a KIMS, while General Atlantic sold about 2.75% stake. ICICI Pru was majority buyer out there. So that's an interesting one. Premier Explosives, I don't know the size of the order, but they've got an order from an overseas entity to supply rocket motors. So this could be interesting. Ujjivan Small Finance Bank QIP has been launched. Floor price is about 21.93 rupees per share. So watch out for this one. And Z Entertainment, and Z Entertainment, apparently Sony and Z have offered merger concessions to ease India's watchdogs concerns, as per Reuters. Maybe Z could be interesting today. By the way, Z was active yesterday. Look at what MK Quant Research is saying. They are putting out this information or the analysis. It closed above its August swing high of 269. Yesterday, I think it was at 270. The traded volume yesterday was 1.5 times the weekly average. Delivery quantity was 98% above the monthly average. And the MACD indicator developed a bullish crossover pattern on the daily chart, which signals more upside ahead. Watch out for Z Entertainment in the session today. It's had a decent move. Maybe it could have more in store. So do watch out for this one. Do watch out for defense names. So, I haven't followed LKP's recommendations, but LKP's recommendations or LKP's argument seems more in line with some of the minds that have spoken off late on defense, and which is why I thought it was important to bring this. They say that there's visibility of 4 to 5 years on defense names as the country needs to match the international standards. There's better operating leverage and higher contribution from non-government orders, which could augur well for the margins for the defense companies. And they like BEL due to additional positives like a lean balance sheet, better working capital management, and emphasis on some non-profitable, non-defense sectors. This is the big thing from a BEL perspective, that they are not just defense, non-defense as well. Viewers, if you, I mean, I'm sure BEL management has spoken on various platforms, but I think they did an interview with us a month and a half back. And if you watch that interview, you will get a good sense of how confident the management was when it came to order visibility and order execution as well. And the candor, the management mentioned that a large portion of this growth numbers will start coming in not from FY23, from FY24, and all of that. So lot of clarity given by the management, I think, in all interviews. But I know that they give fair degree of clarity in our interview. So you might want to tune in, I mean, on our website, on YouTube, on Facebook, on wherever. You will be able to search for that interview. It's a good one to try and get a sense of what the management had to say. And I trust we'll have to bring it out as well. It's a Q1 review with Anandi Ramalingam. It'll give you a good sense of how the lady and her team thinks about BEL. So you might want to try and tune into this, and it's a 10-odd-minute interview. You get a good sense of what BEL is planning to do. But watch out for defense, particularly seems to be a pocket that almost everybody is betting on. So here's the deal, right? I think HAL, BEL, BDL, Garden Reach Shipbuilders, and Mishra Dhatu Nigam have all informed the stock exchanges that they will conduct investor outreach programs and participate in non-deal roadshows and meetings with prospective investors from September 12 to 15. So the meetings are on as we speak. And as some of the Marwari dealers say that garam rahega, you never know. What stood out for me, amongst other things, like I said, that watch out for iPhone suppliers as well, and watch out if you're an Apple fan. KGI Securities is a firm which has said that there's a pre-order data shows that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the best-selling model, and that it is doing better than the iPhone 13 Pro Max did at this point. Everything that Apple touches turns to gold, especially on the phone front. Well, do watch out for that. I've missed out on companies like IRB Infra, where in the August gross toll collections jumped about 35%, or a Reddington, who knows, there might be continued traction because of this, or Asian biotech shares, because apparently Joe Biden has signed an executive order laying out a strategy to bolster domestic biomanufacturing and reduce reliance on China for new medicines, chemicals, and other products. Do Indian companies like Biocon benefit? Who knows? Or do they also suffer because US may want to look completely inward? But out of China would probably mean into India as well. So, I missed out on those firms, but yeah, I think broadly we've covered most things. Accenture results on 22nd, watch out for that. Mahindra and Mahindra, a lot of positive reports have come out because of their EV launches, so watch out for that. Tata Motors is meeting a bunch of investors all through this week, so watch out for that. Lots of things to watch out for. I know I don't want to confuse you more, but yeah, a bunch of Montreals. The undertone remains bullish. Happy trading. Thanks so much for tuning in today to the Trade Center.